Lovely. Okay, there we go. It started. Oh, I've got my hat on. Sorry. So I think first of all, we've got the Broughton Avon Flood Forum to do a presentation. I can see various people here. So I don't know who wants to do it, who's leading on it, but feel free to begin.
I'm chosen one myself just for tonight. So the purpose of our asking to be heard tonight is simply so that all the councillors are aware that we are here and discuss what we're doing broadly. At the moment, the Bradford Avon Flood Prevention Group is small in number, although several people from the community have asked if they can assist in any way to tell them. But it's quite a tight group, and we are listed, I notice, as the Flood Forum on your agenda. Well, we're not exactly as grand as that yet, but in due course, hopefully, we will be able to have such an event, which the entire community will be interested in attending. So we would like to thank the council first of all for allowing us to come this evening. The purpose is for us to ensure that the town council is fully aware of our aims and objectives, which you all hopefully have had a copy. And we would like to seek the council's approval of our efforts to address the flooding issues. We know the council is well aware of the flooding effects on the town and its population, and that the council is concerned and not come here what is already well known to all of you. So the aims and objectives set out the initial list of stakeholders that we hope to engage with in finding an acceptable, sustainable solution. Several options of varying degrees will be considered by us, and we hope to approach the topic in a professional and thorough manner. So we are still at the research stage of our endeavours, and we've been gathering information on other areas where strategies have been successfully implemented and the sort of approaches that they have taken. So it's a long-term project, and we hope we will provide a long-term, effective, sustainable solution eventually, which will endure well into the future, we hope. Albeit early days, we would attempt to answer any questions that anyone might have, if there are any. But primarily, we would welcome the council's approval of our efforts.
Brilliant. Lovely. Thank you. So I'm happy to start. Yeah, thank you for coming in and presenting it. I met with some of you guys a few months ago, and it was very, very worthwhile. And I want to sort of thank and commend you all for actually grasping the nettle on this and trying to help out with us and work constructively. So we really, really appreciate that. From a town council point of view, we're working with the Environment Agency and Wessex Water and Wiltshire Council and all those big stakeholders with our flooding working group, which will meet in the next couple of weeks to try and work through the official avenues. But from my point of view, I think it worked really nicely on this is what we've done with some other projects in the town where we kind of come at it and work in tandem from two different points, and there's different buttons that we can push as a town council and different buttons that committed, organised resident groups can push as well. I think we've seen it work quite well with the golf course or projects similar to that. So broadly speaking just for me, not the town council, the 10, is it 10? Yeah. The 10 objectives that you lay out here, I don't really see anything that I can contradict. I think they all seem perfectly worthy and things that we should certainly work towards, and we'd agree with most of what's there. So that's kind of where I am. I don't know if anybody else has got thoughts, questions, comments on any of this.
As one of the stakeholders, naturally, the catchment sensitive farming definitely needs to be involved. They're already active in trying to reduce flood risk in this catchment. So,
one of our group has looked at the catchment area in particular, so perhaps he'd like to answer the question.
Sorry, what did you say? Yeah, I'm saying that in terms of stakeholders, naturally there's catchment sensitive farming advisors need to be involved in two things. One is to actually advise farmers on how they can reduce, they can manage their land to reduce flooding. In terms of a voluntary approach, but also as agricultural grants, incentives to try and encourage them to take up that sort of management. So I think it's a sort of two-pronged approach here.
So that was naturally, yeah.
I've got the name of the guy I wrote to him about it. He seems quite positive to get involved. From my point of view, I think if we can get a sort of comprehensive scheme right the way up the valley, go as far as the source of the River Avon, then I think there's a chance of trying to reduce the flood risk into the towns below them. But let's face it, all these towns are threatened. It's Chippenham, Hampshire, and they're all in the firing line. We need to work together. It may well be that our respective neighbourhood plans need to dovetail in with each other to make sure that there's joined-up thinking.
I think tonight what we're trying to do is just make our presence known to you. It is, as first spokesman said, that it's a long-term project, and we recognise that the council has in some way already adopted options 3, I think, of the relevant agencies' plan. But in reality, over the last 10 years, that has produced absolutely nothing. I suspect that the next 10 years it will produce absolutely nothing. So we are looking at it from a slightly different perspective, in the sense this is very much a bottom-up organisation. It's about the community, it's about the well-being of the community, and working to find even smaller solutions over time to make progress to the ultimate goal to alleviate flooding in the long term. It's a very, very complex issue. So we are trying to engage with organisations that have succinct and well-based knowledge of the subject, because there are solutions. But unfortunately, from my perspective, the town itself hasn't got a big enough population in order to attract the central government funding. If it's Chippenham or it's Salisbury, even Trowbridge, it can happen, but here it's quite difficult. So we're having to look up, as you say, around. We're looking around all the local parishes in the basin, of which there are 29, something like that. So we want to engage with each one of those, see what they've got as plans, link them together, so that gradually our repertoire of information and presentation of data is factual, correct, straight, not diluted, and we're trying to really deal with what is going on here, which is a moving target. There's a climate change, but as you say, the farming community are certainly part of that, and the group that we've listed in our initial document is very much an initial list. We recognise that other organisations, other people, other expertise that we can draw, but we're trying to do it as an independent, non-political organisation dealing with the issue that we have had, which I'm not ready. I'd love to say I can do it in 6 months, but I know that's not reality. So we have to work and come up with ideas. It may be we come up with one small scheme that might cost 10,000, I don't know. But it's starting, this is the first station. And our next stop is, if you like, go whichever down to Avoncliff. And what we do in that space of time, what we can achieve, will help build the information we hold and how we use that information to actually put forward projects and ideas and interact with not just farmers, but with businesses, because this is not just about, this is about economic resilience of the town going forward, which involves businesses and people, but it is about engaging with people so they feel they have a forum. No disrespect to the town council, but you have your own. I have been in your shoes, so I do know where I'm coming from. It's about trying to create a different, at a town council level. So to put it one way, as I've used in the past, it's like making Bradford Avon look like a bullfrog. We become bigger than Chippenham, even though we're small. But that can only be done if we can do it in a way that engages with correct data, honest data, and fact. And whereas so much of what goes on in government is about motion, but very little movement. So we'd love to do this project. It's going to cost this. We haven't got the money. Well, I know why you've got the money. I know what that means. We're trying to overcome that so we can actually engage with the environment agency to give them the confidence to feel that we can come up with different strategies. I don't know what they're going to be exactly. We have various ideas, but it's important this time gets about think we've adopted the recycle by using a basin in the water catchment area, and we're the plug hole as far as water is concerned. So it's about engagement, it's about neutrality, it's about fact. We're not trying to score any quick hits here, it's about engaging.
Can I just add, in response to the points that you made, Councillor Gordon, that we have actually started looking at schemes which people like Chippenham are implementing, and the Bristol and Avon estuary works. And we want to know what impact, if any, those schemes are going to have on us. And it means going through all the reports that they've done and making sure that that is covered, because they are legally obliged to take us into account. But we have yet to see evidence that they have. And so we're embracing quite a large volume of aspects, if you like, of this task. And yeah, we want to do a thorough job. That's the plan.
It's going to be a multifaceted
Yeah.
approach, whether it's planning or farming.
It's complex.
Economics. So yeah, I appreciate this.
Brilliant. Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add? Katie?
Yeah, well, just firstly to add to what you said, Jack, about being very supportive of what you're aiming to do. And I think that, as you've indicated, as a group of residents, you often have a power that goes beyond or is different to that which a council can have in addressing established bodies such as the Environment Agency, just because you come at it from different angles. I think that's really, really helpful, an organised group of residents. And I think there could be all sorts of benefits, and obviously you're at the early stages at the moment, but not just in terms of the campaigning for measures of mitigations and so on that these bodies might implement, but also as a sort of support to individual residents, perhaps as regards particular installations in their own homes or recommendations, where insurance boundaries, all that sort of sharing of good practice could be really helpful as well. So, yeah, thanks for what you're doing.
Brilliant. Anybody else? No. Hello.
I registered a question. Is this where I ask it now?
Yes,
If
yes,
it's
you
on
need
this
to.
topic, then go for it. Yeah.
Hello, Mark Dunn, local resident. I live down at Wearside Mill at Greenland Mills. Whilst the flood action group are looking at the sort of bigger picture of the whole river, the strategy and so on, as are the Environment Agency and the council and so on, tactically, I think the other thing that we may be missing is that from, let's say, Greenland Mills Weir down to, let's say, Barton Farm, Hackles Bridge, that the river isn't actually in very good condition, in so much as there's an awful lot of rubble that's in the river that's been there for 20 odd years when the factories were pulled down and so on. A lot of the rubble in there was just chucked in the river. There's a huge amount of silt. There's a silt island at Greenland Mills that shouldn't be there. There's 2 or 3 of the arches on the town bridge are virtually silted up. And as we had the worst flood ever, a couple of, 2024, 5 centimetres of water now could be the difference between scores more houses being flooded. So has the town got a maintenance plan for the river? For example, around the town bridge, there are trees growing out of the flood walls. Sooner or later, those trees are going to come down and bring the flood wall with it. They really need to be cut out. The silt around the town bridge needs to be cleared out so the water can flow down it, and the rubble needs to be taken out so that the volume of the river flows properly. Now, perhaps, Jack, when you go to your meeting in the next couple of weeks with the Environment Agency, could we find out if there is a maintenance plan for Bradford and Avon stretch of the river? If not, why not? And if there is to be a maintenance plan, could we get like a ground truth of what good looks like? Because I just can't believe allowing the town bridge to silt out and looking at hundreds of tons of rubble in our 1 mile of river, that surely can't be a good fit.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yes, I'm very happy to ask that question. And if they've got something, I think we can share that with everybody, and we'll ask the question definitely. Thank you. Kate.
I wonder if we can produce a document that talks about some of these issues. I know that the event that I attended with some of the other councillors on natural-based flooding solutions, there were some discussions about the silting of the river. And as far as I remember, that actually it's not the solution that people think it was due to the volume of water that's coming down. And so I'm wondering if maybe we can gather the correct information and have it published, or certainly, because it's something that I think lots of people think it's a very simple solution, and a bit like solving the traffic, I don't think it is quite as simple as the silt. However, I would definitely take into account the trees and, you know, the worry of trees coming down, as we know that not the last flooding, but the flooding before was certainly exacerbated by a tree being stuck in the river. So I think that's definitely something to look at. But yes, I believe that there's a lot of issues with the silting and dredging the river in terms of the effects on biodiversity, but also it doesn't bring the solution that I think people think it will.
Cheers, Kate.
I was just going to say,
Oh, hello.
hi, sorry. Just to add to that point, I noticed the other day when I crossed the bridge, the condition of the wall along the river is particularly bad. There's one tree that could come out of the floods. That was going to collapse.
Which wall do you mean? By the library car park?
No, on the opposite side. By Westbury Gardens.
Westbury Wall.
Yeah. The wall is in really bad.
Yeah, so the wall there that fell down when the tree moved was it in the storm or a flood? It was in the flood, wasn't it? That is being fixed soon. We're just waiting for the license from the EA, unbelievably. So once we have the license to go and do it, we've appointed a contractor, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got a contractor appointed to go in and fix that wall and to sort out the tree and to make it much safer. So that should help with that. But more generally, I think we'll speak to the EA about the maintenance plan for that entire river. As Kate says, the answer we've got from them before about the silt is that they don't think it would make much difference. They've done the modelling and they haven't desilted it for years and years and years. But I can ask the question, and if they've got the information that explains why desilting it isn't the answer, we'll make sure we share that, because whether we agree with it or not, if they don't think they need to do it, they're the only people that can do it, sadly.
Because the other point, just without dragging the conversation
Yeah.
on, if it's about money, which I'm not naive,
Most things are.
50 years or whatever. If it's about money, perhaps the town needs to look at this on a self-help basis. We've got hundreds of, I won't say fighting age males, because some of us are a bit older than that, but a lot of this is self-help. You know, cutting trees out of walls, we can do that ourselves. Lifting rubble out of the river, we can do that ourselves. Desilting, that's straightforward. And having watched Bradford and Avon on TV last night on the Prunella Scales and whatever on the canal boat journeys, that canal was dug out by hand, you know, when it was reopened in 1890. So why can't we make it a self-help project? For the town?
I don't disagree at all with your sentiment.
Yeah.
The experience we're having of just getting a license to sort out this wall on the river makes me think that bureaucracy sadly will get in our way, but I think the sentiment's a good one. Any other final comments from councillors on? No, lovely. Thank you for bringing it to us. Just to say, please keep us updated. Feel free to email all of us with what you're up to. Let us know, and I'm sure we'd be happy to hear from you guys again when you've got an update or when there's anything we can help with as well. So thank you. Okay, do we have questions and comments from the public on other things?
So Andrew, wanted to ask.
Andrew, you're up.
First of all, two things. My friend tells us trying to log into the stream and they say it's not working. Are you recording?
It does record.
It'll go onto YouTube automatically. Yeah, there's 3 people watching it, so.
Oh, okay. The item 6 minutes of those other committees, why weren't they available to download, and will you be publishing them?
So I didn't hear the end, Andrew, so it's very quiet.
Item 6, the minutes of some committees.
Yeah.
Are already loaded onto the website. They're already there in there. The noting is just that, and so the minutes have already been published. They're already in their slots dotted around the. So we're not repeating.
Oh, thank you. I was looking to download them from the pages for this meeting. Thanks, that explains that. I've got a couple of questions. A friend has asked me to put to you that relate to item 8, about the cricket pavilion project. What has gone wrong with the project so that you aren't sure that you'll get it funded and built in time before the planning permission lapses?
Nothing.
Thanks. And why does the toilet consultation apparently not mention the reason why you're thinking of building it in advance of the rest of the project?
Don't quite got the question. Sorry. The consultation doesn't mention why we're building it in before the rest of the project. Is that the question?
Yes. So
Yeah.
according to the budget item report, the reason you're proposing to build a toilet and amenity building, it would be to secure the planning permission for the whole pavilion project.
Yeah. Oh, so splitting it up, you mean? Why have we split up the whole project and building one first before the other?
The question I've been agreed to ask is why does the toilet consultation not mention the reason why you're thinking of building it in advance of the rest of the project?
I don't see why we can't pop that sentence in the preamble on the consultation. Yeah, that's fine. We can add that in.
Consultation's already live, isn't it?
Yes, we can edit it. That's not a problem.
Okay. And so there's a couple of others. Chair, Councillor Whittles, are you an official of the cricket club?
No.
Are you their communication officer?
I'm on the committee.
It's relevant to declarations of interest because the pavilion project comes up under the budget item when it comes to the public toilet amenity building. Okay, and this toilet consultation, who decided to do the consultation and when was that decision made?
So I believe that having a consultation when you're potentially going for a public works loan is it a legal requirement or is it just, it's good practice? It's good practice to do. So we've done that.
So, sorry, the question was who made that decision and also when it was made?
Exactly when, I couldn't tell you. The logistics around how we go about securing a loan have been taken by officers.
Officers, thank you. And then maybe there's a couple more. Although I'd rather be asking them at item 8 on the budget because that's so far.
Okay, let's do that.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
Martin Newman.
Martin, hello.
Good evening to the councillors. Over this side, I think you may have the ladies in the wrong place.
So hold off a second as well, because the noise will pick up. No, you're very welcome to go, but just hold off a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I need to go to the spec settings.
That's all right, good to see you.
I'm just waiting to people, they obviously don't have leaving as fast as they possibly can.
Right, go for it. Go on.
Thank you. In reverse order, I've got a couple of items on the budget, and I save those to item 8 as well.
Yeah, might as well. Yeah.
My remaining item is, it may sound a rather dry procedural point, but actually I think it's very important. I'm speaking to the minutes of the meeting of the 4th of November. Item 11, confidential business, and item 13, councillor remuneration. The resolution at item 11 states, quote, under the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, by reason of a confidential nature to be discussed, that the public and press be excluded from the meeting. The resolution is not included in the minutes, so one must assume that it was as in the agenda. There's a typo in the motion which should read something like, of the confidential nature of the business to be discussed. As written, it makes really no sense. I note in passing you did not avail yourselves of the Local Government Act 1972, section 100A, which also deals with this matter. But this legislation does not apply in this case as it was not in your resolution. The required test in the 1960 Act is the public can be excluded, quote, whenever publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, or for other special reasons stated in the resolution
and arising from the nature of that business or proceedings. No special reasons were stated, so that section does not apply. So we're left with the public interest test. Could you please explain how the public interest would be prejudiced by discussing what I assume is a proposal to pay councillors an allowance in an open council meeting? If this test is not met, then I suggest that the exclusion of the public would be unlawful in those circumstances, and your proceedings on this matter could not stand.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll appreciate that is a very detailed question to take in verbally. I'm going to ask, would you mind sending it in?
Happy to.
Is that all right? Thank you. And then we'll get back to you on that, because like I said, complicated to work out verbally, and also B, I'll be completely honest, I haven't got the answers on that at the moment, because it's referring to lots of things.
Come out on a cold Tuesday night to listen to you and be part of your democracy, to then be excluded from a meeting on something which actually seems to be in the public interest. If you were talking about paying yourselves allowances, quite the reverse of what the legal test is.
Yeah, if you could send it in, we'll have a look. And yeah, thank you. That'd be great. Who's next?
Peter Worthing.
Peter Worthing. Hello.
Yeah, I've got three related questions. First, I need to give some context to the questions I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
And then the background is I've attended quite a few council meetings now, and as a member of the public, I emphasise that, as a member of the public, I've seen limited analysis on the requests which are being put forward to the councils to approve. For all requests, I would expect that the council will already carry out a certain level of due diligence, appropriate level of due diligence, and by that I mean consideration given to the benefits, the risks and the costs of such a request. And I would expect as a minimum for a summary of that due diligence to be given to councillors before they actually have to make a decision. I feel that the risks need to be highlighted and a mitigation given to those risks before the decision is made. And needless to say, I don't expect the council to have the expertise to do the due diligence on all requests. If they haven't got the expertise, they should be getting outside experts to do that.
So I just stop. When you say requests, what requests are you
I'll
talking
give you an example.
Okay, fine.
So now
That's all right. I was just,
now
yeah,
I'll
fine.
give you an example. So I thought it would be useful to give an example. So to give an example, the last full council meeting, and that's detailed in the minutes, an unconditional approval was given to the council to become a corporate trustee of Bradford Open Sports Club. So a relatively straightforward request, and I'm sure the decision to approve that was the right decision. However, my point of using that as an example, in the discussion there was no mention of the associated risks or costs to the council becoming a trustee of the football club. And so to give an example of that, in certain circumstances, the trustee, in this case it would be the town council, can become personally liable. So you become a trustee, you can become personally liable. And I didn't hear that mentioned at all in the discussion, or how that risk could be acceptably mitigated. Another example, for example, would be the club's insurance. Their insurance has to provide an appropriate level of cover, and importantly, that has to cover the trustees as well. So that needs to be checked, and that would have to be checked on an annual basis. And checking on an annual basis would incur a cost. It's a cost in time rather than sort of indirect cost. So with that backdrop, my sort of three questions coming from that are, did the council undertake an appropriate level of due diligence on that request from the football club to become trustee? And before approval of the request, were councillors made aware of the potential risks, and in particular, for example, the risk that the council could become personally liable in taking that trusteeship on? And thirdly, if the councillors were not made aware of that information, would you agree that for each request submitted by the council for approval, a summary of the council's due diligence signed by an officer of the council should be provided?
Thank you. So broadly, I guess you're asking us to think harder, which seems fair enough. In terms of the football club one, so to answer your questions directly, did we highlight that exact risk at the time? remember us doing that at exact time. Andy, you did that. Okay. Brilliant.
About the risks that you're talking about. I can't remember what you said.
We've got insurance as a council to cover us for taking.
But I'm thinking you may have insurance, the risk is not necessarily a monetary one. For example, if legal action is taken against the football club, then that action will be taken against the trustee, so therefore in this case, it will be taken against the council, in the council's name. So it's those sort of things which I thought would be, and it's using this as an example, that that should be highlighted in a summary of the due diligence that's been undertaken. And I'd like to see when a request like that appears on the agenda, that summary of the due diligence the council have done accompanies that summary signed by the council officer.
Okay.
So we can see that that has been done.
I think probably the majority of what you're talking about is happening, but it may just not be being written down in that way when it comes to a meeting.
But that's why
So,
I think it's important.
No.
Because if you,
yeah, go on, let
this
me,
example of
yeah.
insurance, if it's not written down and made a condition of because this is an unconditional approval, if that document saying this is our due diligence, this is the risks, this is how we mitigate those risks, if the approval is then given, subject to those actions being taken, i.e. in this example, one of the examples would be the council will undertake to check every year on the review of the insurance policy that it does cover the trustees, and that it is set at an appropriate level.
So I'm happy to ask officers to have a look at what we can do when we bring things to council, or when we make requests, or when councils are put before us as a council to decide about making sure that we are clear about the risks and what due diligence that we have already undertaken. I'm happy to ask officers to look at that and see if we can improve that, on paper so that it's clearer to see. And the other side of it, I guess, is, as I said at the start, I wasn't joking. You're asking us to be more thoughtful when we do these things as well, and I get that as well.
I guess it's more, I wouldn't say it's accountability necessarily, but I think when a decision's being made, it's good to have a fully informed decision rather than not necessarily having all the facts. So I know that the council has trustee involved with other situations, and sometimes that may be the council or individual councils who be put forward in those roles. But from the little information I've had back, I don't think that the personal risks which are involved in doing that have been properly mitigated. When I say mitigated, revealed.
Going around in circles.
Fine. Perfect. Okay, thank
So
you.
what I was going to do, sorry, just
Yes,
to
go on.
highlight that, just to voice out, I've written down the questions, so I can hand it to you, so you can see it.
Pass them over, that's not a
Also,
problem.
because I thought it quite useful just to give you the something from the charity commission which sets out all the risks of a trustee.
Very happy to look at it.
And also something from a club handbook, which for an incorporated entity, not a charity, where the risks are very, very similar for a trustee. So if I can give Amy, at least I know.
Yeah, of course.
It's there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, that's fine. I'll take that now if you want. If you've got it, yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. And anybody else, Sarah?
Yes, I think there was one. Peter Wood.
Peter Wood. Hello.
So when we're on the plan lane, just behind where the vocal is going to be built, and I guess it's kind of a question whether this sort of block is actually needed, whether it's going to purely serving the interest of the cricket club, that it's going to bring up more space there. I guess at the moment there's one toilet in the cricket club which is in a very bad state, and how to maintain additional toilets and make sure they don't get into a poor state when at the moment we can't even manage one. And I think, a question, did you look at the pavilion on the opposite side, and football pavilion, which is already there, it's already a building, kind of, was that ever looked at as a potential alternative rather than a new project, which obviously has huge environmental impacts and everything? And then I guess finally it's the budget. I understand it's going to cost sort of in the region of £700,000, which again we live just behind, so we're kind of in a similar situation. We've effectively built a brand new house, 4 or 5 bedroom house, kind of energy efficient materials and everything, and it costs a fraction of that sum. So this is a toilet and 2 toilets, a changing installed, so I just can't understand how anyone would get to that figure. It just seems astronomical. So yes, it's understandable. It's determined, right?
Yeah, so on the figure, I don't disagree with you. It's a lot of money, isn't it, for what you think it would be. Everything seems to be very expensive when you're a town council or a public body. That's the first thing I would say, which is very unfortunate. The costings on it aren't obviously exact as well at this point. They were done by I forgot what name, is it QS? Did it for us? Yeah, with the architects. So it is a ballpark figure, which obviously we need to see what sort of loan we might need to work out whether we can afford it, to work out where we're going. So I'm cautiously optimistic that it would come in less than what's been advertised, but we won't know until we get a detailed quote. Public toilets are incredibly expensive to build. The ones we have currently, as you pointed out, are in pretty poor state. That is primarily due to the fact that a lot of the pieces that are breaking in them are no longer made, and that the ones that were put in originally are basically these standalone, not the one at Culver Close actually, the ones in town, are standalone units, which were popped in at great cost at the time, and the company is now going out of business, so you can get spare parts. So public toilets are an expensive thing to do. In terms of what the current provision is there, obviously, like you say, there's one public toilet there at the back of the cricket pavilion at the moment, which is, I don't know if you've been in it recently, but it's pretty horrible. And given that it's a central location in the middle of town, Barton Farm Country Park, Tithe Barn workshops, the basketball stuff down there as well. It's the busiest part of our town most of the year. I think it makes sense for us to have new facilities down there. It doesn't particularly add anything additional to the cricket club side of things, as far as I know. It's the public toilets and the storage bit at the back, which would be for town council wardens and a lot of the kit that we now have. We've taken on all of the management of our green spaces over the last 5 years. We obviously need an awful lot of equipment to maintain that around the town, so that would be a good storage for that. And what's the other thing in there? Oh, a changing places thing, which is a changing place is a sort of known name. So it is a very large changing area / toilet that is signed off, so it can be used for people in wheelchairs to be winched into different places. We don't have one in the town. I don't think there's one in a lot of towns around here, so it would be a good thing to do. What else did you say? Sorry.
On the toilet of the pavilion, the opposite pavilion.
Oh, the other pavilion on Victory Field. So
never to be really used.
yeah, as far as I understand it, it's not in a position to be used really. It's no good.
When we started the project, it was discounted, so obviously we've been on this project for quite a few years now, we've come to the end of it. And it was looked at in the first book, it's change rooms rather than public toilets. They're less with the which is the youth club, because it's not youth club all the time. And until we've got other facilities for them, that's what they use. The single toilet, we've been in there, it's basically a domestic toilet in there, which is not man enough for the use that it gets. Spends more time out of commissioning, spending commissioning. The complaints that we get from members of the public and visitors that go down there, there's just not enough facilities for them. When we have events, Culver Close and Victory Field, people queuing around trying to get in there, if you're 15th in line, it's absolutely disgusting to go to the town council, we can't, we want something else. So we need a more manned, more not manned, that's the personnel, or manned facility that can actually cope with the number of people.
Yeah, brilliant. I guess the other thing I just like to point out, there's a lot of anti-certain kind of drunk teens in the evening, particularly in the summer, that hang around there, and they hang around the shipping containers in particular. We've got a lot of graffiti on the back, and it's just not necessarily a question, but I think it's something that really needs to be thought of how that's going to be managed, because I think something like that will be a magnet for teens just to hang out.
Yeah.
And as a result, there's likely to be disruptions going on. I think there needs to be a plan in place to monitor the sites and make sure that
Yeah, I agree with that. So you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to add to the point really. For me, the existing toilets in their current position are relatively accessible. You can access via a footpath that leads all the way into the town centre. You can kind of access probably from 3 different vantage points. where you're proposing to put the new toilet, it's not accessible currently. It's got a dirt track leading up to where the containers are. How is that going to be made accessible to, say, severely disabled people? There's no parking there. It doesn't seem like, to me, like the right location for those toilets, when currently the location's actually, for that area, probably okay. Why couldn't it be incorporated into a cricket pavilion toilet aspect, maybe a storage aspect on the inside? That's what I'm finding, because obviously the toilets adding to the cost significantly.
But, I mean,
It's such a high cost, you're talking about £700,000. That would be a lot of money to be put into a pot to maintain the existing toilets or to replace the toilets that you're saying are pretty much going to be decommissioned in the rest of the town. It's such a high cost, I don't see how the council can justify it.
yeah, that is a lot of money. I mean, whether we put the toilets on that side of the road or the other side, I think they probably cost the same. The point about access in the designs for the new amenity building and public toilets, that slope would be made accessible, basically, that would be the plan. And parking, again, I guess it's the same as it would be the other side of the road. There's not a lot of parking down at the best of times, sadly.
There are spaces for, say, disabled people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when we put the oh, sorry, yeah, go on, Kate.
I just wanted to add about the point of putting the toilets in the cricket pavilion, which we would love to have done, actually. If you'd been around when we had the discussions about the design for the cricket pavilion, what we really wanted to do for our town, because the cricket club is really, really popular and I think a really important youth provision in our town. I think getting kids outdoors, building communities, engaging in sport, engaging in community activities where they build their network, are able to associate with older and younger, and I think these are all really important things. At the moment, there's not enough space for any female changing rooms in the cricket pavilion, so in order to have everything fitted in and to be able to have kind of separate changing rooms for girls and make that provision really accessible for everybody, we weren't able to fit public toilets into, because we're so hampered because of the historic value of that area. And we actually had a bigger cricket pavilion that had everything we needed, including toilets, in that one site. But we had to shrink it down because of the sight lines to do with the views of the Tide Barn and all the other historic buildings that are around. So yes, in an ideal world, absolutely, we would have had them all in the one place. We just couldn't fit everything in. At the moment, there is that container already there, so it seemed like a really sensible way of fitting in storage that's absolutely essential for our grounds people and for public toilets, which, you know, we all know when we've had young children and we're using all the different parks around there, not having toilet provision. It's really challenging. It's such an amazing part of our town. It brings in so many visitors and people that use all the businesses down there, both in the Tide Barn workshops and the cafes, but also wider into town. And I think it's essential that we have a provision down there. And I think it's obviously unfortunate if you live down there that there's lots of youths around in the summer. I also think it's great that there's a community of kids that kind of use our open spaces, and we do lots of youth outreach in our town where we're working with people, different bodies, different ways of engaging with kids, and we obviously don't want there to be antisocial behaviour, but I think we're really supportive of our young people and the way that they use our town.
Yeah, certainly not kind of pushing, saying not supportive of them, but yeah, kind of what I'm talking about is night time, lots of drinking, which does happen down there, and that's probably something that needs to be.
Brilliant, thank you. Yes, Katie.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, Kate has brilliantly said, made lots of the points on that as regards to that building. I think it's also the point that we haven't had the proper storage there for all the grounds maintenance vehicles, but also that the potential of that building is because we had to develop on the existing footprint, we couldn't go beyond it. But we wanted to make it a building that isn't purely the cricket club, but is a community building that can be a resource for the community too. It will be a much nicer space that people want to rent for, occasions, not big occasions. It'll be a space more venue, but for meetings or small evening gatherings or whatever. But there's a potential revenue to be gained from that in the future. If we can make the very best of that building, we can, by having that additional space where the shipping containers are essentially. And so, as we couldn't expand the footprint of the building, that was the way to do it. And I do understand your point about building at the top, but I think for the access for people with severe disabilities, for example, to use the changing places toilet, which obviously does come with a cost, the access, as Jack explained, at the bottom is going to be more better for that than somehow pulling up on Through Road.
Can I just add, I think a few people have discussed whether or not the changing places would be better in the centre of town, and I think it's something that we should discuss. Nothing is set in stone at this point in time. I think we've got various difficulties with the upkeep and changing and the cost of the toilets in the centre of town as it is, so I'm not sure that that's even a possibility, but I think it's important that we make sure that we've discussed every possibility before we move forward with the final proposal.
Lovely. Thank you. Go on then briefly. Yeah,
Sorry.
And then
Just one more point. It's more on that point really, is that you say that the provision of the changing room is going to be on the other side of the road where the cricket pavilion is. Would that not make more sense to have the change rooms on the other side and the toilets where the pavilion is? Just for accessibility. Currently Victory Fields is used for football. I mean, severely disabled people don't really use that field. It's a difficult field to get into. I feel like they're more likely to be using the other facilities, like cricket or areas where there is access via a footpath. There's no footpath inside.
I think whether or not we have the changing places facility on that side, that makes no difference to needing the public toilets on that side. There simply isn't space for any public toilets on the cricket pavilion side. But I think we should review it and make sure that any decision that we make is robust.
Chair.
yes.
We'll probably never have enough toilets. So catering for events was suggested as an issue. Do you get the organisers to provide sufficient portaloos for events?
So when
additional items.
Yeah, so when we have events on Victory Field, I'm trying to, when we've done, what we've done on there, the coronation, we put a big screen up, we bring in portaloos for that and things like that. When the Food and Drink Festival used to be there, they had portaloos.
It's not really an argument for counting what's been said over here because we do it already.
Brilliant, thank you. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
No, lovely, okay. Apologies from councillors, who have we got?
Yes, we've got apologies from councillors Elliott and Kay.
Lovely, thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. I'm very happy to put down a member of the cricket club. Might as well perennially put that down. Anybody else a member of a sports team in the town? No, lovely. Item number 4, minutes. So this is to approve the minutes of the last full town council, excuse me, on the 4th of November. So anybody have any comments on them first of all? No, lovely. In which case, can I have somebody to propose those, please? George, and a seconder. Sam, lovely. All of those in favour of adopting the minutes?
Thank you.
Lovely, that's everybody. Item 5, matters arising, says none. Do we have any since the agenda?
Not to my knowledge.
No. Item 6 is to note the minutes from the following meetings. So I'll read them out for completeness. Environment and Green Spaces, 25th of November. Resources on the 2nd of December. And Sustainable Travel on the 9th of December. They're not with the agenda pack, but they are on the website. Mm-hmm. And this is just to note them, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, lovely. Item 7 is Chair's update. I have a verbal update, which will be written in the minutes that go out following this meeting, so fear not. A couple of events I've attended. So November the 16th, I handed out some trophies to Bradford Avon Bowls Club at their annual dinner, which was very enjoyable, and to learn a bit more about what they've been up to and how they're maintaining and growing as a club. That was very interesting. November the 28th, which was our Christmas light switch on. So that was very, very enjoyable. We had, I don't know what the numbers were, but thousands of people attending. It was very, very busy. And I kind of thought we'd go one or two ways, given that last year was rained off. Either people would forget it happened, or they would pile in and support it. And I think they piled in and supported it, actually. So spoken to a lot of shopkeepers and people that run our pubs and restaurants, and they were very pleased. They had a very good evening. So I want to thank everybody really that was involved in that. So town council officers, councillors that were involved, Burbage Electrical for the lights themselves, everybody that was involved with the giving tree, and everyone who performed on the night and volunteered and just helped generally in the organising. I think it's one of those things we do really well as a town now. And walking home that evening, I walked over the railway bridge quite early to go and put my son to bed, and there were maybe 50, 60 people on the rail platform going back towards Trowbridge. So it's a good sign that people are coming here for them, even though Trowbridge was on the same night. So that was really good. A couple of Christmas bits. So on the 11th, I went to the Wiltshire Lieutenant's Carol Service and Devises to represent the town, which was festive, very nice, and actually a really good chance to chat with other mayors and elected officials from other towns in Wiltshire and swap contacts and a few ideas, actually. So that was really useful. And then on December the 14th, it was the sort of community carol service in Holy Trinity for the culmination of the Christmas Tree Festival. And I gave a quick sort of speech there about Bradford-on-Avon community at Christmas, which was really enjoyable, very nice to do, and lovely to see all the Christmas trees, as usual, decorated by all the organisations and groups and charities and local people. So I think it's one of those events that we do really well. One thing I haven't put on my list, which I think was this time, is, I haven't got the date for it, but I'll add it for the written one, Sarah, is I went to Christchurch as well for the sort of dedication of their new building works up there. They've got new kitchens and new toilets, which they were very, very proud to show off. So it was a brilliant service up there, all very enjoyable, with lots of cake, and the Bishop of Ramsbury, I want to say, he was quite entertaining. So that was very nice. And then a couple of more procedural bits I just wanted to flag to everybody. One, we've already talked about it, but the consultation is currently open as well on the funding for the new public loo, so please do fill that in. And also to flag that we've now got a flood dashboard for Bradford-on-Avon online. So do have a look at that. I think the link, is it on our website now? Yeah. It's not any new information, but what it does, if you haven't seen it, it draws in all the information onto one page. So it's very complicated, I think, but it is all there. If you've got the time to look at it, it looks at the height of the river, it looks at the rainfall radars and everything. So hopefully that'll be a useful tool when we get to flooding levels again. I think that is it. Sorry, I've gone very fast, Sarah,
No, that's
but
fine.
I will email it to you. Brilliant.
Jack,
Hello.
can I just add into Mayor's update?
Yes.
That, not that you went, but because it was Christmas Day, but I just wanted to say a big thank you to Chris from Punk Burgers and the lady at the Canal Tavern, whose name escapes me, I think it could be Sharon, who organised a free Christmas dinner for anybody that was in need or just on their own Christmas, and it was a really lovely event, and hopefully will grow in future years, but a really lovely thing to do for our community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kate. Cool. Okay. Item number 8 is budget and council tax 26-27. So there is a report with the agenda, which I'm going to ask George to speak to as Chair of Resources to start with, if that's okay. And then I know we had Andrew, you wanted to ask some questions on it, and Martin as well. Yeah. So if you're happy to introduce it, George, and then we'll take the questions and then we'll open it up, if that's okay.
Yeah, so there's also producing at in December what was in the end quite a long meeting to discuss the budget and the precept. We considered this could just give options, breaking things down by what we wanted to proceed with now and what we wanted to perhaps consider another year. I think after a great deal of discussion, we settled on the lowest increase to precept that was still in mind with our long-term obligations and objectives. You'll be able to see the breakdown of activities here, but the long and short of it is increasing costs, much of which are associated with increased staffing costs. Topping up capital reserves. The loan associated with the building we discussed earlier. And what's the final section? And now I see what I'm missing. No, I think that might be it. Yeah, so is there a breakdown for the increase, or was that in a different?
Different one. So effectively, it's 5% for the cost of inflation, and then 4% for the cost of the loan at the worst case. And if you come to a cheaper building and you don't have to take so much loan, it means we're able to replenish our reserves that we've put away. We're currently taking a 5-year run up to get our reserves actually quite low. Look through it quicker, but understand the campus and all back in there. As our liabilities grow, as the councils grow, then the reserves that we should carry in general, those should be increasing.
Of course, yeah. I mean, one final thing to mention here, as in position on multiple occasions, that a lot of the calculations here, particularly in terms of the loan, are incredibly cautious, and I hope that things will not cost as much as they appear to in this paper, and that's the said things will be replenished where but just to reiterate the point I made earlier, is that we did select the option with the lowest increase reset. That was still maintaining the wanted to.
Brilliant. Thank you, George. I think we'll take the public questions now, and then we'll open it up to councillors. So, Martin, you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you. I have read the 5-page document. I struggled with the headings that you use for various items, like what does thriving town mean, and what does flourishing community? It'd be helpful if you could explain what those headings actually mean. I haven't read the business plan, but if you could turn it into English, what sort of things do those encompass, it would be helpful. Secondly, I noticed that the item called council governance, which I surmise means the cost of the council existing, will now consume 21.5% of the planned expenditure. So more than 1/5 of the expenditure is just, if I define it correctly, is the council being used. And there have been substantial increases over recent years. So my question is, why is that? And finally, you're proposing a 9% increase in the precept at a time when inflation is around 3% and household budgets are under pressure. How can you justify this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some things that I would suggest that some of us get back to you on, particularly one probably on this that I think we should refer to first. I think in terms of increasing it above inflation, I mean, inflation is by most of it is CPI, right? So it reflects costs of a certain time. I think the costs associated with town council revenues are rather different, and I actually think comparing it to preset increases of other town councils tells you a great deal more comparing it to CPI. That's what I would say to you there. On the first point, though, I do appreciate this when you get an academic standard you're used to, Martin. We can make this better for you.
I just didn't understand it. So are you going to explain what those headings mean?
I think I'm not entirely sure what some of the headings mean.
I know this and that.
Yes,
We can give you a breakdown. Yeah, they're in the business plan, but I appreciate they should be broken down in more detail on here. We can definitely look at that. I think being as open about our finances as possible is the good thing to do. So I agree. Cool. Andrew, do you want to go now?
Thank you, yes. Following that up, were you at Resources Committee looking at a more detailed spreadsheet? Is there a more detailed spreadsheet? And why not publish it?
I wasn't at the meeting.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So in the meeting, as I said, we reviewed a number of options because we wanted to look at it in a more granular way to make sure that we were seeing the lines. I don't think it would be useful for people to see options that weren't taken on. The committee's job is to make a decision on the committee level, bring it to full council for discussion. The committee makes a recommendation based on those options, and now the recommendations will follow the procedure. Otherwise, these papers would be illegible and full of problems. I imagine it would be the only.
Yes, were those options written down, written papers?
Would they form part of the minutes that is supposed to?
No.
My question was whether there were written papers about these options.
Unsure at the moment. We can go back and check whether there were or not.
They were written in the original report.
They were in the original report.
In the confidential session.
In the confidential session.
Are you now able to tell us why that session was confidential? Please.
I believe standard practice to discuss it confidentially in committee and then make sure that it's seen publicly at full council. I think other councils do this similar thing.
I emailed the council a couple of days before that committee pointing out that Wiltshire, Chippenham, Trowbridge and Salisbury all have that committee equivalent meeting in open session. I haven't looked at smaller settlements. And so my question was why, what was it specifically that was of a confidential nature that would prejudice the public interest, as Mr. Newman?
No, we can look. I'm very happy to ask officers to look and make sure that was all legal.
Thank you. Looking at the item on the part of it about the loan and the public toilet and the amenity building, half or 2/3 of £1 million, wouldn't it be just 1 or 2% of that cost to reapply for the planning permission? Surely, and that might enable Kate's point to come to be fulfilled, and nothing is set in stone. For example, there are 7 toilets in the building in the proposed pavilion. Not one of those is usable by the public. For example, the green roof as biodiversity net gain. It's expensive to build a green roof and hold it up and keep the building dry. The government's withdrawn that requirement. The council could do their biodiversity net gain somewhere else a lot cheaper. There were no cycle parking stands. You could look at that again. So the question basically was, wouldn't it be more prudent to reapply for planning permission if you need to? Because you might not need to secure it with this building the toilet block in advance.
No, I disagree.
Thanks. And there was one sentence particularly, it would also be prudent as the current costs due to inflation would be the lowest cost. This is about building the securing the planning permission by means of getting the loan and building the toilet block. But that doesn't make sense to me because if the current cost would be the lowest cost due to inflation, then in any given year, the cost is the same in real terms, which takes account of inflation. So are you standing by that logic? That the sooner you get the loan and build that, it's more prudent it is?
It will be cheaper, yeah.
In real terms?
Well, as you've seen the discussion we're having now on council tax and raising it, we're not able always to raise it exactly by inflation. I think it's prudent to get the thing built while it's cheaper. I understand what you're saying about, if the cost of the building goes up, the cost of everything else goes up, and therefore we put the council tax up, so it all is equivalent. But no, I think it's prudent to get on with it, really.
Thank you. And then you declared your interest, and you just said, well, I'm a member of the cricket club, I want a lot of us members of the sports club. But earlier you said you were a committee member of the cricket club. And the cricket club website makes out that you are the chief of communications, so you're an official of the cricket club. And isn't there a conflict of interest between the cricket club's interests, which would be for the town council to get this loan, repay it over 50 years, spend that money, and the townsfolk's interest, which are to minimise the amounts of council precept there is. As if I'm not mistaken, a committee member and official of the cricket club, isn't that a clear conflict of interest? And would you be prepared to withdraw from debate and voting on the budget item.
I'll go Katie then Sam.
Jack's declared the interest that he's a member of the Cricket Club at every single meeting in the past 4 years or however long it's been discussed. There's no financial benefit to Jack whatsoever, so there's no pecuniary interest at all
I understand,
whether or
thank
not the
you.
building's built. The intention all along, and as Kate says, we were hoping for a bigger building, was that it would be for use by organisations of all natures of sports, and beyond that, we were talking to groups, opera groups, as I remember as well, when we were thinking of the larger building. So, you know, all sorts of people would have an interest. You know, we discuss investment in our play areas, councillors have children or grandchildren. You know, the point of having elected councillors is people who have an interest in the town, and Jack's interest has been in developing sporting facilities and opportunities, as he's made clear at every point along the way. So I really don't think the issue of interest is relevant, because he doesn't stand to benefit, I don't think, in any way, and certainly not financially.
I certainly didn't say pecuniary or financially.
No.
I just want to make the comment that the planning statement says that the primary use of the new facility is for Bradford Naval Cricket Club. So the cricket club and its committee officers and generally benefit from this council spending, and so to be squeaky clean, wouldn't a councillor who's a cricket club official want to, what do they call it, recuse themselves from the debate on this particularly sensitive item about huge amounts of money, about half the council's annual turnover?
The officers of an organisation, as I understand it, are normally the elected officers, such as a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary, a treasurer. I think if you handle the communications of the Facebook page or whatever, that's not, as I understand it, an officer of a club or an organisation.
Sounds a bit like splitting hairs. If it's a committee member, it's a committee member.
I don't think we're the ones splitting the hairs, Andrew.
I think we need to try and move on.
Been said or
I just want to echo what Katie said, and I just think that we have to be very mindful that a lot of us councillors, we will double hat on different roles, and that's normal, and that's to be commended, frankly, because it shows that we bring something else to the table as the council with our interests. And I mean, as Katie said, Jack has declared his interest every time without fail, religiously over-declared it, and that's correct. But I think on the point about the loans, what we're discussing now, this refers to the public toilet facility, which is probably the element of the building least connected with a cricket club activity. It's something which is going to serve the community in many ways, especially with regards to obviously providing a facility for severely disabled people. So I feel like this particular element that is relevant right now to this discussion about the budget is the least possible connected element to the cricket club. So I would like to know.
Thank you, Ms. Stapleton.
Kate.
So I was just going to add as well, I don't think that the reason that we'd like to get on with it is simply about securing the planning. For me, it's about delivering a facility for the families and users of our town. My kids are now 19 and 21, and they didn't have a toilet to use when they were playing down at Barton Farm. We've been in the town for how many years, 18, 19. And so we've been missing a toilet facility in that part of the town for at least that long. So I think that the reason for getting on with it isn't simply about securing planning permission, it's about delivering a much needed facility.
Okay, lovely.
So,
How many more to go, Andrew?
I think if I've got the right to make a comment.
I'd just like,
We've had a
how
lot
many
of
more
time.
questions do you have?
We've
I'd
had
just
a lot
like
of
to know.
time.
Because we are supposed to limit it. I feel like I'm being quite generous, but I'd just like to know how many more we've got to go.
I wanted to ask the right to make a comment.
Keep it brief.
Happy to follow the questions. I just, as a climate emergency town, I do feel that we should prioritise climate action if we borrow large sums of money from the Treasury, such as decarbonising St Margaret's Hall and other buildings. Not because we get 2 bites of the cherry easily to borrow this much money. We've got a climate and ecological strategy that ran from 2020 to 2025. Not sure where the 2026 to 2031 is or when it might come. The commitment was carbon neutral by 2030. We've got to get on with this thing. We don't have a cricket emergency. We haven't even got a toilets emergency. We've got a climate emergency that we're committed to, or is that idea too passé?
Your comment is noted.
Can I just make a comment on that? I think we do have a toilet emergency. Ever since we've now closed the toilets at the lock, there is a problem at that end of town. So the need for a toilet that serves that end of town is imperative, and particularly the older people who can't run into town, use the facilities, and come back in. So I think from the imperative perspective, the toilets are very important.
And when you located the toilet there, did you think about where in the whole Buxton Farm complex would be the best place, or did you just want to make it as close to the pavilion as possible? And the same question applies to the maintenance shed or whatever it is. Did you look across the town, or did you just want to make it as close to the existing one?
The reason that it was put there, as I understand it, is because it replaces the unsightly current shipping containers that are very, very unpopular. And also it's as close as possible to where the current public toilet is, which seems like a sensible place to have it.
My question was about, did you consider where would be the best position for a public toilet in that whole recreational area, including Barton Farm? When the pavilion was built, Barton workshops weren't there, the playground wasn't there, Barton Farm wasn't open to the public, the Tyne Pond wasn't developed well. Suddenly that position for a toilet is separate from where most people are having their recreation. I wondered whether you considered that, or whether you just wanted to put the toilet close to the pavilion.
It was all considered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, councillors, do we have comments or thoughts on the budget more generally or specifically? Anything at all to add to what's already been said in response to the questions? No, Sam, go on.
Sorry, very quickly. Just coming back to the point about inflation, which is as George has addressed, I think what I would highlight on inflation as well for council, I mean, some of our costs, and Ian, you can go into far more detail on things like waste disposal. The rises there are astronomical, and there are possibly reasons in Wiltshire why we face some of these things. But this is part of our sort of rising challenges and energy bills, of course. And so I guess when we're looking at our particular the rising costs of the services most pertinent to our council's operations. Unfortunately, some of these things are just very, very challenging, and keeping a lid on those rising costs very difficult. A lot of people obviously want us to have more bins, and often the reason why we need to know is nothing to do with the cost of the bins, but the associated cost of waste disposal is so high. So yeah, just really to make those points about some of our overheads.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam. Anybody else? Katie?
I was simply going to say that, none of us take putting up, I'm sure, the precept lightly at all. We've all knocked on doors and had people say we don't like it going up. So, it's a difficult decision. But I think the point that is made in here somewhere, I think it's important to just emphasise for the benefit of public hearing and listening, is that one of the things we appreciate about Bradford is our green spaces and the fact that we don't have huge new estates built on the edge of town, but it does mean that unlike other town councils, we don't have the benefit of extra households contributing to our town finances through the project, and we also don't get the benefit of the community infrastructure levy money and other monies that come in from developers when those sites built. So we do need to protect our financial position in terms of our increased assets and in terms of future financial risks that we're not necessarily always mindful of. We don't know what they'll be, as it were. For example, the need to increase our reserves for the Beckenham case and so on. And so it just is important to take those precautions. And the additional point I think is also in here is that at some point the government could decide to cap finances. They haven't yet. They did, but they might.
Yeah, I mean, they used to review it every 3 or 4 years, and they review it every year. So eventually they will have this.
So you need to keep that increase while
What's the potential of bringing in real money through grants?
That's one of the other problems that people probably know that as a town council, we don't have access to any business rates. Most grants that are offered by the government actually are not available to us. They're available to the principal authorities, so district councils and Wales, so the unitary authority. So we don't get those. Fortunately, rather for whatever reason, we also don't go and pass those grants on to us. that we struggle to get them. So we are looking, trying to be inventive as possible. As I stated in the report as well, we are looking over the next 3 or 4 years to reduce our reliance on these preset by reducing fees and charges by what we do when we set up a store open, we've got a new facility to try and generate more income that way. Looking at ways of trying to generate outside increase.
Just a general point, we need to look at all opportunities to try and bring in more money. That's got to be a top priority. So I used to work with the city council, I spent my whole time raising money. And there are opportunities.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? No. In which case, then, the recommendation on the agenda is the Resources Committee recommended the following to the full council: to set the budget for 2026-2027 at £1,673,463. And yes. Set the budget. Oh, I see. That's the preset part of it. And to set the 26-27 budget preset at £1,353,026, which will require an increase in the precepts for Bradford and Avon of 9%. So, somebody happy to propose that, please? George, thank you very much. Do I have a seconder on that one as well? Lovely. Chris, thank you very much. All those in favour of that? Lovely. That's everybody. Thank you very much. Item number 9 is St Margaret's Hall update from the Deputy Town Clerk. Oh yeah, Chris is there. Update from the Deputy Town Clerk. Chris.
Well, I don't have anything to add to the report.
Fine.
Primarily to just let people know the work, just to let them know, and that's pretty much expecting them to start implementing this thing. So, happy to answer questions, but nothing to add.
When we expect them to finish.
10 to 12 weeks. So,
Fingers crossed.
Albeit, yeah, such is the nature of these projects.
Brilliant. Okay. People have comments or questions for Chris on this one. Andrew, go on. Keep it brief.
Thank you. Any progress on finding out how much it will cost to replace the gas heating within the plant and any aspects of that?
Fixed conversation we're having, but essentially the claims are like basis. So any capital costs incurred in doing that. But it's a conversation we're having.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Andy.
Flooring, what's the proposal there?
Again,
is it just like for like?
Yeah.
Just my concern is that if we get another similar flood,
You get like for like.
Yeah. So yeah, as it stands, I understand that what they're budgeting for is like for like, isn't it? I've asked officers to arrange a meeting with all councillors before they start work, so that we're able to talk through some of the additional options we may be able to put in place. Some of them hopefully could be cost neutral. You know, I'm sure they're already in there, but moving the sockets up the walls for a start. And then there may also be other things that we as a council perhaps think should be done to make it more flood resilient. And this may be the time to do them, as it may be slightly cheaper to do it now while the contractors are on site. It may not, but I think we need to have that conversation before they start digging. Yes, Katie.
Sorry, just one minute. One of the things I understand makes the hall very attractive to hirers who dance is that it's a sprung floor. Is that correct? So will the like mean it will be again that sort of floor?
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, it's the slightly more advanced version of what the company that makes it has kind of progressed there. There's an option that councillors can consider, which is a different type of surface finish, but underneath it's the same construction.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. Any other comments or questions from councillors? No. Lovely. Okey-doke. I think I can find the agenda. I think that was the last thing, wasn't it? Yes. Lovely. So, date of the next full town council is the 10th of March, 2026. Thank you very much, everybody.
Right. Minutes.
Oh, yes. Have you got a pen?
I don't know what we're going to do about the confidentiality thing. We've been using the same phrase for years to get us through using it.
What, for the, he's finished.
Well, yeah, we